All right, you're doing all the work. You've started strong, you've got vision in mind, and just when you're about to hit the finish line, you stall. This week, we're talking about what does it mean to have a fear of success?
Yeah, normally we hear a lot of people say they have a fear of failure, but really, what if there's something called the fear of success?
This episode isn't about laziness, it's not about discipline, but it is about how we sabotage our success. Stick with us. Hey, welcome back to the Pursuit of Happy Well podcast. This is a podcast we talk all about what does it mean to build a happy and well life. It's based off of the Harvard Grant study, one of the longest studies on human happiness. And there's 6 core pillars. If you want to go back to some of our past episodes, we talk about that. But today we're going to talk about success. And we talk a lot about success, and we talk a lot about stress, and we talk a lot about boundaries. And if you're wondering what your stress response is in relation to the Happy Well pursuit, we have a free quiz for you. It's down in the description below, or you can find it in the show notes if you're listening through your audio streaming device. But today we're talking about something that I thought I'd never have to talk about.
Oh.
The idea of the fear of success. That seems like an oxymoron. Mm-hmm. Why would I be afraid of success?
Okay, but some people legitimately are. And I think this is definitely worth exploring. And if my voice sounds a little bit different today, it's because my daughter blessed me with passing on a summer cold. So
she literally went, God bless you.
in my face. So I've got like the DJ voice, like, welcome to the radio show.
Some we'll put a phone number down on the bottom of the video. Call in to make your requests.
Call in. Hey, maybe that would actually be fun sometime to do some call-ins, some listening call-ins.
I think that'd be awesome.
So no, this idea of like the fear of success, I remember the first time I heard it, it didn't make sense to me. I'm naturally kind of a more ambitious, I have to win. I love winning. I'm the Ricky Bobby, like, well, if you're not first, you're last.
Ricky Bobby. That's how I feel when we're on this podcast. I don't know what to do with my hands.
Exactly. But this idea of, I think for me, I mean, something that haunts me in my sleep is the fear of failing. Like that, that floods my body with fear, anxiety, worry, doubt, all of those things. But also for some people, the fear of success can be equally distressing for them as the fear of failure for me. And so really kind of unpacking, okay, so why is that? Why is success or follow through, destabilizing or, to use the nervous system language, why is that dysregulating for some people? Why does that elicit a stress response? We're talking a lot about, how you respond to things in life by a stress response.
Yeah.
So it's like, why does that happen? And I think this is a worthy conversation to have because most people are like talking about the fear of failure, but let's talk about the fear of success and why I think it's the reason why a lot of people don't see things through.
Yeah, I can obviously relate. I can relate to, I think both actually, as I'm looking at our notes and so forth, the idea of fear of failure. I think a lot of us understand what that's like. I mean, if you've been in school, every time you get to a test, I don't know if you've had test anxiety, but you're just super nervous about not getting the answers right. I feel like our daughter has that a little bit. She gets to a test and
she gets in her head.
She just gets in her head. And so the fear of failure, I think a lot of us can understand a lot of those pieces, but the fear of success, as we start to unpack this, it might make a little more sense to you that are listening. Maybe there are some areas in which you have stalled right at the finish line where things are about to just take off because of the fear of success.
Yeah. And I'm not sure I've talked with some people that I've coached and those things where they are able to name, I think I'm afraid of success. But most people can't name it. They just know they're dropping the ball once they gain momentum, or they just know that they start a lot of things but don't finish them, and they can't really get clear on why. So we're gonna unpack that. But for some reason, success feels, or completing something can feel destabilizing to somebody. But here's why: because success brings change.
Yeah.
Like if I do this, if I complete this task, specifically, I think a lot of times this might be for somebody that has a small business or going after the thing that they dream of, writing the book or, starting a business, this idea of like, okay, that means with this, what changes? If I actually go through with this and I actually reach the finish line, meaning I publish the book, I launch the business, I start a podcast, I start this, nonprofit or this group, what comes with that? And what it comes with is a measure of like visibility.
Yeah.
Like, oh, now I'm going to be seen. I'm going to be exposed. This is no longer this quiet dream in my heart that I talk about. This is also why I think some people don't say out loud what their dreams are, because then they're like, okay, but if I say it out loud, then, and if it doesn't happen, then everyone's going to know I failed. So better to not say anything at all than to say it out loud. Right. So change, visibility. What's another one of what success brings?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing I was thinking through is just change. The studies on people changing, actually finding change. You talk about these studies of people being in a doctor's office and being basically told like, you need to change X, Y, and Z. Either you need to get more movement, or you need to change your eating habits, or you're going to die, right? People on their death path, if you will. And the stats for that change are abysmal. I mean, they're terrible. And the reason I bring that up is because with success failure, here's the thing. If you're trying to start something and it fails, there's really no change. Maybe you lost some money in terms of investing or something, but like if you are on the road and and we're talking about success, and all of a sudden you hit it out of the park and it starts to grow, a lot changes.
Yeah. Well, and one of those changes is how people perceive you. Because before your success, there was people had a certain understanding of you, a picture of you. They were able to kind of put you in some kind of a box of like, this is the context in which I understand you. And now you have left that box and I don't understand you. And so some people will experience. So when you have that measure of success, you're not only are you dealing with your own change of like, oh no, I'm no longer in this box. I'm now kind of experiencing a different reality. Now, other people are letting me know that I no longer fit in their box.
Yeah.
And I think what actually happens is like we lose connection with some people when we have that success. Like there are going to be people that don't support it, don't understand it, don't get it. And so I actually think sometimes the fear of success is loss aversion of like,
oh, interesting.
Who will I lose?
Yeah.
Oh. If I have this measure of success.
And maybe not just who will you lose, but also just all the other pieces, like my free time, my downtime, the ability to have weekends off, depending on what your success change looks like as a business owner, right? You're carrying all those things into your free time, potentially, if you're not managing your time well. And so success could mean eating into your downtime, right? So loss aversion in that sense too. Not just in terms of, relationships and friendships and people not understanding you or you not fitting in their box anymore. Man, I never thought about it in that sense of loss
aversion for sure.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my time. I think it's kind of interesting. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to start this thing for time freedom. I'm like, you mean time freedom in the sense that you don't have a ton of free time. It says that you have freedom to choose where you put your time. You know what I mean?
Well, I think I remember what podcast we talked about on this, but which episode. But I think it's funny when people go into being a business owner and they assume that like, well, now I'm the boss of my time, and it's like, yeah, now you're the boss of your time.
You have to actually boss yourself,
which means you actually got to boss yourself and have a schedule, and like otherwise you're going to be working all the time.
Or whenever you feel like it, which looks really inconsistent for some people.
Very inconsistent, leaves a lot of, yeah.
Okay, but there's three fears. There's three fears that kind of support or bolster under the fear of success. And so one of them is, if I finish this, I'll have to maintain it.
Ooh.
And that is the fear of pressure. Like what? Like I'm gonna have to keep this up. And I think I see this happening with people that building platforms or something. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to make content every day for the rest of my life. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. I have those thoughts sometimes where I'm like, am I going to be making content every day for the rest of my life? Oh no.
Yes. Yes, every day, all the time.
Yeah. So it's like, but that's a real one. Okay. So the fear of having the pressure of having to maintain this, whatever I do now, I have to maintain it.
Right.
The second one is if I succeed, people will expect more of me. It's a
Ooh.
fear of future demands.
I had, oh man, I had oh man. Okay. There's a lot to say on that one. I think about, people that put in just enough at their jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and not calling anybody out, but I think sometimes we don't. Okay. I equate this back to, do you remember doing group projects back in the day,
Yes.
whether it was in college or high school? Man, I hated group projects because I felt like no one would ever grab the reins.
Yep.
And because of that, nothing would get started. So we'd spend like the whole time, the first class session where the group was assigned, just sitting there waiting for somebody to take charge.
That was not my experience because I didn't wait for anybody.
Well,
I was like,
I'm not
here
done.
we go.
I'm not done. I started doing that because I always was the one that would step in and like start owning the things. And it just turned into me doing all the work all the time.
Yes.
The reason I bring that up is because I think many of us in some of our jobs, we do just enough to keep our job, but not enough to where we're doing off the job description, scope creep type work.
Going beyond our scope.
Where people are expecting more of you because, man, this guy's killing it. We're just going to give it over here to Jimmy. Jimmy's going to run it and we're going to sit back and let Jimmy go. But the reason, some of that is like, it's a toxic catch-22 because it's like, I want to excel at my job. I'm not looking for scope creep, but if I excel at my job, then I get more responsibility. And then if something doesn't go well in some places, Jimmy, who is taking on more than he should, fails at the more than he should job, responsibility, and then gets cut.
This is a whole nother podcast episode because there's kind of an epidemic of, it's big with millennials, like millennial corporate burnout, where they kind of were like, it's kind of like a quiet rebellion of not the quiet quit, but like, I'm going to do what is in my job description and no more. Yeah. Because what was happening was they were burning out, taking on more responsibility without more pay. So I think that's a really fine line and another episode coming, but I do think there is this idea of like, what demands of others, like what more demands will be put on me if I have success at this. So maybe you have a service-based business and it's like, that's more customers that are looking to me for answers. That's more, or my employees are going to look to me, like the demands of, I have to make more in payroll or I won't be able to meet the demands, like people fear of future demands and I won't be able to make it. And then there's a third one. Do you want to do the third one?
Yeah. The third one being, if I finally reach this goal, if I finally hit the vision, the goal that I've been chasing, then what?
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I think I talk about this a lot. I can't find the clip anymore. I don't know if they just pulled it down, but I remember an interview that happened with Tom Brady after, I don't know if it was his first, second, third, or which Super Bowl win it was. I think it was one of the ones early on. And the interviewer basically said like, hey, Tom, you've done it all. You got your MVP, you have won the Super Bowl. Now what? And he just like paused and just stared back at the interviewer with, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what now. And I think, I can't remember we talked about this a couple episodes ago, but this idea that if your work is your identity, then this can very, very much be your case, that once you hit the goal, then what?
Yeah. Or before, like your identity is something else. Let's say you have your concept of self, and remember, like the box I was talking about, like this is how I see myself. So for me, for a really good example of this, I was a hairstylist for 15 years. So for me, stepping into being an online educator and coach, oh gosh, there was a lot that came up for me. It was just like, I'm leaving the box I have been put in, or this label, Kristen, a hairstylist for X number of years. And so there is an identity loss. Like I remember when my last day in the salon, I cried. I was like, this isn't me anymore. And then, some people were like, I even had some people who are like, you're just a hairstylist. Who do you think you are to go do this? And it was like, there was even like I kind of feel like, for lack of a better term, it was like Downton Abbey, like where I felt like I was in like the servants' quarters, and I dared to dream above my class. Like, but
no,
right?
for real.
Don't you think there's like that kind of like hierarchy?
Yeah.
So sociologically, like don't rise above your class. And I do think there was like I'm a hairstylist, which is, I don't know if it would be, it's a very pretty blue collar if it's blue collar, but it is a trade.
Yeah.
And so moving into this is like, I rose above my station, so to speak. So there is a fear of identity loss and how other people perceive your new identity. That's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think through, if people that have gone to school for certain things and they find out down the road that they're not drawn or passionate about that. I think about people like, go into law and they're like, man, I really don't like being a lawyer, but they've sunk, it's the idea we talked about.
Sunk fallacy.
Yeah. The sunk fallacy, sunk cost, so they don't want to switch roles because of that, because of the loss aversion. I just want to say, this is why I just continue to have you cut my hair.
Oh my gosh.
To make sure that, that investment is still paying out.
I have been begging Scott for years to let me freaking retire. I'm like, please, I'm done cutting your hair.
Cut my hair and I just wear a hat all the time. It's perfect.
I'm like, I'm tired of cutting your hair.
She does a good job though. That's not why I wear a hat.
Scott, my mom, and my kids are like, you're never retiring.
Never going to retire. This will forever be.
Okay, so we've talked about like 3 of the biggest fears behind the kind of go under the fear of success category, but somebody might not know that's their fear. So we're going to talk about like, I like to look at what are the symptoms. Like the root cause is like, obviously the root cause always goes down to how we are perceiving, like what is the threat? What is the perceived threat? And how are we trying to de-escalate or get rid of the threat. So for example, success is the perceived threat. And really it's the perceived threat of like, who will I lose? What will I lose? What demands will be made of me? How will I be able to maintain or sustain this? So the brain perceives that as a threat, and we're going to do whatever we can to mitigate or get rid of the threat. So we go to these symptomatic behaviors. And most people are aware of the symptoms. They're not aware of the root cause. Like, oh, this is a fear of success. So we can look at the symptomatic behaviors, and these are shown by your stress types as well. This is what, when we built Sondera, we're like, if everybody could understand through the lens of how they are responding to a stressor, which by the way, success can be a stressor, we can help people understand what their symptoms, like why they are doing this, and address it at the root cause. So let's talk about what those look like. You can essentially call them like your body's subconscious safety strategies. There's the perceived threat. Here's a safety strategy. So,
and a safety strategy, just so we know, doesn't necessarily mean that it is serving you.
100%.
I mean, the safety strategy could purely be the way your body is coping with whatever that stressor is. But it, like we talked about, like change positive or negative, the body doesn't love. Yeah. Right. And so success could be a change. And so the safety strategy for your body is to do these things in response. And so the first one is being, which I think many of us are familiar with, myself included, you for sure.
How dare you, Scott Boss?
Is none other than procrastination. Procrastination.
Yeah.
I remember writing papers in college, and like the way I procrastinated was I would finally clean my room. And so you knew there was like a big paper coming.
I always knew when I came over, if your room was really clean, I was like, you got a big paper, huh?
And I've written none of it yet. But the room is pretty clean.
Well, that actually is a form of buffering.
Okay,
so like I'm going to fill in the time with other busy work than actually doing the work I know I should be doing. But this is just your system slowing down. Like, let's just tap the brakes. And so it could look like, delaying, procrastinating, putting it off. You just keep putting it off. And I think it's really important to add, this has nothing to do with your desire. Like you could want the outcome of the success so
bad.
badly.
You got the vision board.
So badly.
Yeah.
It could keep you up at night and be like, I want this so bad for my family, for finances, for security. And that's beautiful. Desire is beautiful. But at the end of the day, the body wins. The body will always win. So if you have the desire to do big, beautiful things, but your brain's like, cool, those big, beautiful things are going to maybe cause a loss of identity or loss of connection to others, or, add more pressure to my life. Guess what? Doesn't matter how bad you want it. Your brain's gonna be like, cool, let's just slow this down because it's not worth the threat. So procrastination, this one, quitting early. I think this one's interesting. I'd be curious your thoughts on this, but I think quitting early for some people looks like, I don't think it looks like a big loud quit. I don't think it looks like I quit, I'm out, I'm not doing this anymore. I actually think it looks like talking themselves out of how much they want it. Like the desire is really big. And then I think they're gonna be like, it's okay. You know what? It's really not that bad. We get by. Life is pretty good here. I'm okay with this. I'm going to say like quitting early actually starts to look like negotiating with your current reality. Because I think quitting out loud, most people won't say I quit out loud because they have such an aversion to the term quitting. So I think it looks like a subtle quit. I used to talk about this in my last podcast. It was like micro quits.
Yeah.
So I think it looks like talking themselves out of what they wanted.
Do you think this is, this had me think about this idea, we talked about with our goals, moving the goalposts. And would this be similar in the sense of like moving the goalposts in the sense of where it's not going to keep pushing you to actually pursue the actual goal? Does that make sense? So
give me an example.
Well, okay. Give me an example. I always go to wait because it's,
or choose writing a book. I really want to write a book.
Okay. Writing a book.
And I'm going to release a book at X date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe writing a book, you have this thought that I'm going to have a book, and I like more fiction than nonfiction. Or wait,
vice versa, babe.
I'm the other way. I like more nonfiction.
I'm the
than
fiction reader.
Yeah, you're the fiction reader. But maybe you're going to write this book and it's going to serve all these people and it's going to have all these points in it. And then it's getting hard. And you all of a sudden decide, well, I'm just going to pull my aspiration back. And I knew my original vision was going to be amazing. It was going to be awesome. But that also means that maybe I have to go on a book tour. That also means that maybe it's going to catch some clout.
Or slack.
Or slack, either way. And so maybe instead of like, is
that flack?
Flack. Yeah, not slack. And so then maybe instead of writing this book that I think could be a real leader in, let's say, fatherhood, instead I'm just going to write a journal. Because it's less risky. It's less exposure, a little more easier to swallow. I think my friends will still understand who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's negotiating with what you say, your initial goal. Yeah. So it's like, I had the goal of like publishing a book and doing these things. And then I realized, oh shoot, people are going to have thoughts and opinions. I remember when I published my book, that was another level of scary. I'm like, wait, someone out there might pick up this book and know nothing about me and make these judgments about me. Ooh, I don't know about that. And I think I remember seeing like one really negative review, and it was kind of funny and awful at the same time. But it's just like, oh, it's another layer of exposure. So I think it's negotiating, talking ourselves out of like, it's okay, I didn't want it that bad anyways.
Yeah.
Or I didn't need to write the book. Maybe I'll just like, do social media instead or whatever. But I think we start negotiating with what we say we want. Yeah.
Do you think quitting early is a form, or is this kind of going to the next one, this idea of like self-sabotaging?
I think it goes into the next one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next one being under-delivering and not on accident.
Yeah. I love this. This is what goes with the rest of it. And I think it's very true, is if you don't give 100%, then the result can't fully define your worth. So if it's like that, yeah, I know that's a huge gut punch for me. Cause I'm like, if I only give 80%,
it gives me an excuse.
And if it fails, I don't have to feel as bad.
Yeah.
Cause I know I didn't put everything into it. But if I give 100%, I leave it all on the field and it still doesn't work. What then?
I think about sports in this scenario where, in the finals, the World Cup or Olympics, and these athletes that have been pursuing these dreams forever. And at that level, they're putting 100% in. And I think sometimes we give people, I don't know, we sometimes we judge. I think some circles judge when people lose that final, and the losers are there on the field crying, and people are like, "Oh, they're so weak. It's just a game." And it's like, you don't understand. These
Yeah.
people have put 100%
110%.
of themselves into this, and there's nothing left. And so to lose, it comes with all kinds of emotions.
And, well, let's think about this. I love this analogy. Let's say it's like the Super Bowl, like 110%. It's been like they eat, sleep, and breathe this. They give it all. They put it all on the field. And not only that, they're not losing privately. They're losing on
grand scale.
the largest, sports broadcast there could possibly
with
be.
the Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe they gave interviews and all those things. So it's like, you want to talk about massive ego exposure, ego in the sense of like, not like I'm such a big deal, but like how you see yourself in the world.
Right.
That could be catastrophic. And so I will say this idea of under-delivering, which is so interesting, I can sometimes fall into the over-delivering and abandon myself in that. But this under-delivering, I have noticed it creep up a little bit, if I'm going to be fully honest, with this current business. I think there is like this fear of like, okay, if I pour everything into this and it doesn't work out, how will I feel about myself at the end of the day? And so like reminding myself, okay, but this is, so I think that's a very honest question. Like, am I quietly doing less than I know I'm capable of because it'll hurt less because I'm already trying to protect myself from the potential loss?
I think it's a great question. I think pausing right now, if you're listening, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening in the car or whatever it is, I think it'd be a good just to pause right here and to think this through. Is there an area in which you were exercising self-protection by under-delivering? Is there an area in which you're pulling your punches so that if something doesn't pan out, you have the ability to be like, it was okay. I wasn't really fully committed anyways. And I think then we move into this lie that we lie to ourselves about like, well, I didn't really want it. If I really put 100% in, then I would have been able to do it. And it's a self-protection deal rather than, there's a lot of thought to do there.
I think this even happens like in relationships, like maybe when people are dating, right? Like it's been so long for me, but I'm like, if I don't let the person see all of me, then if they reject me, it hurts less.
Because it's not, they haven't seen all of me.
Because they haven't seen all of me.
Yeah.
But if I let this person see all of me and then they leave, what then?
Yeah.
I think this shows up in so many areas. It's like, letting people come close to us. And it just goes down to vulnerability. It's just like, I think both losing and winning, so to speak, feels deeply vulnerable in different ways. But I think they both can feel unsafe.
Yeah.
And so, but the conversation we often hear in personal growth circles is fear of failure, not fear of success.
Yeah.
So, there's also like this idea of, so we talked about the signs, like here's how you might be.
Some symptoms.
And it's
probably not exhaustive. There's probably some others.
There's more for sure, but those are just a couple examples. But another one that's worth exploring is understanding now I know some people might be like, I hate talking about emotions, but you kind of have to, because really what we're afraid of is like this idea of like, if I let someone see all of me and they still leave, it's not the leaving, it's the emotion that happens when they leave.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, then I'm going to have to feel intense abandonment, or I'm going to have to feel rejection, or I'm going to have to feel judgment. So oftentimes what we have to explore is what emotional baggage do you have tied to success? I mean, that's a pretty profound question.
I think in our story, success meant growth and it means a growing team, and it means that we have to be ready to lead that team. It means responsibilities for that team.
Yes, responsibility.
It means now there's more to lose
Ugh,
potentially,
yeah. Yep.
right? If something does turn, so it's kind of that last one's kind of a fear of failure, sort of, but it's like, man, if I never hit enough success to get to that point where I can't lose anything, right? It's like this sabotaging the success so that I don't have anything to lose.
Yeah. I also think, do you tie your success, what you see and what you're going for? Is there any part of you that fears isolation at that level? Like, we have to understand that we are biologically and psychologically wired for belonging.
Yeah.
That goes down to like primal, you only survived in the village. If you did not have your village, it meant certain death. So right now, even now, our village is like your family, your friends, relatives, whatever, your kids. And so you hear like it's lonely at the top. You hear, being a leader is lonely. And so some people might be like, I don't want to be alone. So therefore I don't want to succeed. Yeah. Or again, who might I lose? Whose good opinion might I lose when I go there? We
start thinking about success, whose authentic relationship are you going to lose? In the sense of, we think about leadership, and when you're a boss, it can be tough to feel like you have real friends, especially if it's work friends, because you're like, man, are you brown nosing? Are you just trying to earn my trust? Are you just trying to earn, my goodwill so that when and if there's ever a cut, I won't think of cutting you because I have a relationship with you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, or, are you looking for a raise, or are you looking for, whatever it might be? And so, and then there's the other side of that, like it's lonely because you have to make some big decisions that oftentimes can be very unpopular. And so the other side is like protecting yourself from that too. So there could be that isolation piece in terms of success, 100%.
Yeah. So we talked kind of about like, what are the symptoms? What emotional baggage have you tied to success? And then signs you might fear finishing. Like, I think this is kind of more ideas of like, hey, how do I know if this is me? So we'll just give you a couple ideas of the signs, and then we'll go to the Happy Well homework.
Yes. My favorite part. Oh, you're still singing I like it.
I'm going to do it 100 episodes in.
I like it.
Until we have a real jingle.
Yeah.
But signs that you might fear finishing. One would be you set big goals, which, by the way, when you do that, your brain gets all kinds of fun dopamine from that. You set the big goal, but consistently abandon them once progress starts to get real. Once you actually start making traction.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So another one is you distract yourself with new ideas to avoid completing the old ones.
Oh, that's uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of that is I think that can be a fear of success and failure, though, in the sense that I won't see this to completion because then it's never done, so it never can succeed or fail.
It's just going to be, but I'm going to stay busy.
Yes.
So I have a false sense of productivity in this.
Can you think of one project that I have started basically since our birth of marriage that is still yet to be completed?
Is it Adirondack chairs?
Yes, 100% is Adirondack chairs. They have been sitting, I have the arms and the supports cut. Nothing else, because it neither can fail or succeed while it's still in pieces.
Well, and also I just kept distracting you with side projects. So.
There's some truth to that too.
Okay, another one is you downplay your progress so that you don't raise the bar too high. Like, it's fine.
That's what I'm saying. That the idea of like, it's not doing too much to get noticed.
Yeah.
And then the bar, the expectation is like, you're smooth Ron, right? Like you're just
smooth Ron.
We're not expecting, I don't know why I chose Ron, but like, we're not expecting much from Ron other than that he comes to work and he completes his 5 tasks for the day and goes home. He doesn't do more than that. He doesn't do less than that. It's just like, there's the bar and we know what we're getting.
I think, do I want to, yeah, I think I'll add this. I do think there are seasons where you might need to be smooth Ron.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if that is your,
That's
way
your
of
MO.
being, if that's your MO, then it's worth exploring, right?
Yeah.
And then lastly, do you want to do the last one?
Lastly is you secretly believe that if you really gave it all, we kind of talked about this, if you really gave it all and failed, it would mean you're not enough.
Ugh.
That's a gut punch.
Yeah. How many times have you had that conversation with me while I'm like, that means I'm not enough.
Yeah.
It means people don't like me.
and here's the reality. And this is probably another whole nother podcast, but the reality is we aren't. We aren't enough. Enoughness is never anything that we should be chasing.
Well, or
limits.
enoughness, we should never assign enoughness to
your worth,
to outcome, to outcomes, right?
Right.
Because then your enoughness is always vacillating based on your outcomes. So if I have outcomes I like, I'm enough. If I have outcomes I don't like, it's because I suck. That's creating a pretty volatile and toxic relationship with yourself.
I think it also is related to your age and stage. Think about if I thought I was Usain Bolt at the age of 40 after tearing my calf, I'm not enough. And you're right. I'm if that's the marker, right? I'm not enough. That's true.
Yeah. I would just be like, okay, genetically, that's why would you do that?
Okay. So that's an extreme example.
I know.
But the point is the same in the sense of I think we often go through life with that barometer of am I enough to hit this? And if I'm not going to chase it. Rather than just thinking about why is enough what we're chasing? Why are we not just chasing? What does it mean to learn, to grow, to be authentic, to be real, to have real dreams?
I think that's deep work for some people who do tie their self-worth to their output, their outcomes and metrics. See my picture in the dictionary. But I mean, that is the first place my brain will go.
Yeah.
When an outcome does not line up, my brain's like, cool, let's just use this as evidence of why nobody likes you and you suck. Right. And so that's my work.
I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah. And so if for a listener to hear this, it's just I've learned to be kinder to myself. Yeah. My brain has not stopped offering that thought. Yeah. That is its default response. But I can learn to be with myself every time my brain offers that. Instead of shaming myself and being like, gosh, brain, why do you keep doing this? Haven't we been over this? Realizing okay, this is part of my stress response. This is how I'm trying to, establish equilibrium when I'm feeling stressed. I can be kind. I can be compassionate with myself. I'm going to learn how to be with myself when my brain offers me those thoughts instead of oh, look at me, I suck again. Yeah. No, it's okay. Yeah, the thoughts are coming. I'm just going to learn to be kinder and get out of that spiral faster. That's personal growth. Most people think personal growth is the elimination of those thoughts happening, right. But that's not the case. Personal growth is understanding my brain is going to probably continue to offer those thoughts until the end of my days.
Yep.
And my growth is how I will respond to those thoughts.
Yeah, so good. That's exactly right. It's not the elimination, it's growth through it.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
Okay, so happy well homework time.
Do.
Happy well homework. What to do instead.
Yeah. So when it comes to this idea of fear of success is maybe you already have some good ideas from what we've shared today, but is just look for the pattern. What is your pattern? Are you the person that's okay, I have the big dream. The moment it feels risky, I talk myself out of it. Or I'm busy with projects, or just notice. And what's really important is not shaming yourself for your pattern, understanding. Remember, you have to understand that this is simply how your brain is trying to provide safety for you from the perceived threat of success. So I'm not going to shame a deer who freezes when it sees a predator, right? It's kind of that's the response. Do not shame your stress response. Understand it as I'm knocking the mic. Sorry. Right. So first, name the pattern without shame.
Yeah. Next one is, and it kind of goes, the next two really kind of go hand in hand. One is redefining your finishing. What if finishing didn't actually mean more pressure, perfection, performance, And with that, if you can redefine it as a safe finishing plan.
Oh, I
Create
love
a
that.
safe finishing plan.
So like, how can you essentially celebrate progress without fear of future demand? Or what if you can believe this? I'll give you kind of an example of future demand is what conversation might you need to have with yourself about, do you maybe have an unrealistic idea of what those demands are? Like, could it be possible? Is it possible for you to believe that you can grow your capacity to meet future demands? Being like, you know what, this version of me may not be able to meet those future demands, but I can believe that I can become somebody who grows the capacity for those demands.
I like that you said that. You know why?
Why?
That statement just says that you're not enough.
Wait, what?
What you just said is an understanding of realizing you're not enough.
But that's okay, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
But what I'm saying, that's what I mean. I think sometimes we get to this place where, like, if we see success, this was built on my back, therefore I need to grow. I can't grow because I'm not enough, so I'm going to sabotage myself. Instead, what you just brought up was the idea of understanding that that is true. You are not enough. What's the safe finishing plan? It's making sure I have people that work with me, right? Being able to delegate, bringing people on the team, training, becoming a leader, whatever it might be. Because I'm not enough, I need the support to do this.
Yes, I hear what you're saying.
You don't like it?
I don't, only because like I'm not enough feels harsh, Scott. I'm more thinking like, because we're always enough. We're always worthy. We are always enough, no matter what. Maybe it's more of like I don't have the current capacity or the skills yet, but I can grow into that. Okay. I don't know. Maybe you and I are like splitting hairs here.
I think, yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
You kind of reference this, but like, who can you invite in for support? Like, what could support look like with success? Like, who do you want to surround yourself with? Who do you maybe need to call me like, hey, how did it feel when you finished that book? And how did you support yourself in that? Or, hey, can I call you when this happens or when this comes up? It can be friends. It could also maybe be professional support. Like, there were many times when I needed to bring in professional support because of how unsafe I felt with certain levels of exposure. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, no one's going to understand this. I need a professional to come in and teach me how to create what I'm going to call internal safety. How do I create internal safety with myself so I know I'm okay? I know how to take care of myself. I will not collapse, instead of seeking a ton of external safety through people, circumstances. It's like, how do I create internal safety with myself?
That's so good. And it goes into that last piece, this idea of anchoring your identity, and that becoming the idea that finishing is not what gives you your worth. It's who you became in the process of your finishing that gives you your worth.
Yeah.
And that's that idea of growing capacity.
Yeah. It's detaching from the outcome and becoming somebody who embraces the becoming of the process. Like, this is like, yeah, sure, outcome's great, but it's the becoming. It's the who I am becoming in the process. It's how that shaped me. And I have found that growing your capacity often happens in the process leading to the outcome. Yeah. But like, if you're constantly abandoning yourself the moment it gets hard, then what you're doing is you're kind of decreasing your capacity. You're like, oh, that's it. That's all I'm capable of. Boop, ah. But I think when we stay in the work, what we are doing is we're increasing our capacity to feel uncertainty, our capacity to feel the discomfort of following through. Like, I think when we stay in and when we don't quit, every day we grow our capacity.
That's good. Yeah. So, I really like this idea, this topic of exposing the idea of having fear of success. And when it comes to the happy well side, right, this idea that success is not measured by what I should say by what society puts out there all the time. It's not just money, fame. It's not about hitting every goal. Success can look, in what we're talking about today, is what it means to grow in the process, right? And how does this look in terms of not beating yourself up and not getting the shame stick that we've talked about in the past out when we miss hit or when we do succeed, right? And find a new avenue for our everyday.
Yeah. So friends, as you kind of heard us talk about the stress responses, there's actually different types of symptoms that you might have based on your stress response. And if you haven't yet taken our quiz to learn what your unique stress response is when your brain perceives some kind of threat, you're going to want to check that out in the show notes. But again, and also, by the way, if you haven't left a review or shared with a friend, we'd love that, as we're always trying to get the message out. But again, this week, it's not about you are already worthy. You are already enough. Stay in the process of becoming, create internal safety with yourself, and stick with it.
Until next time, hit that subscribe button on YouTube or follow us on our podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.